And Fred, you can't put us out. We your relatives.
You're a damn lie. Ain't nobody in my family like neither one of y'all. Now, get the hell out of here.
Get out of my way,
A sitcom so groundbreaking, so hilarious, that it changed television forever. But behind all those laughs and classic one-liners were secrets so shocking, so heartbreaking, that the cast kept them hidden for decades. Today, we're finally ready to reveal the untold stories that only came to light after many of the beloved stars had passed away. These are the secrets of Sanford and Son that will change everything you thought you knew about this legendary show. 6 incredible seasons. From 1972 to 1977, America fell in love with Fred Sanford and his long-suffering son Lamont. Every Friday night, families gathered around the television sets to watch Red Fox bring his junk dealer character to life with such raw honesty and humor that it broke down barriers like no show had ever done before. But what viewers didn't know was that the magic they saw on screen came with a heavy price that some cast members would carry to their graves. Let's start with the man himself, Red Fox. Everyone knew him as a cranky, scheming Fred Sanford, but what most people didn't realize until years later was just how much of himself Red poured into that character. You see, Red wasn't just acting when he played Fred Sanford. He was drawing from a well of pain and struggle that ran deeper than anyone could have imagined. The truth is, Red had grown up in poverty, and those experiences of scraping by, of having to be clever and sometimes ruthless just to survive, became the soul of Fred Sanford. But here's what really breaks your heart. Red Fox was only 49 years old when the show started, yet he was playing a character who was supposed to be much older. The network executives thought Red looked old enough to be believable as an elderly man, but the reality was that life had aged him beyond his years. The stress of growing up poor, the years of performing in tough nightclubs, and the constant struggle to make it in show business had taken a toll that showed on his face and in his voice. What makes this even more tragic is what happened to Red later in life. On October 11th, 1991, Red Fox was on the set of a new sitcom called The Royal Family when he suddenly collapsed. At first, everyone thought it was another one of his famous fake heart attack routines from Sanford and Son. Cast members actually laughed and waited for him to get up and deliver a punchline. But this time, it wasn't a joke. Red Fox had suffered a real heart attack, and he died that day at just 68 years old. The man who had made millions laugh with his pretend heart attacks had lost his life to the real thing. Now let's talk about something that will absolutely shock you about the relationship between Red Fox and Damon Wilson, who played his son Lamont. Everyone assumed they were close friends in real life, just like their characters seemed to care for each other despite all their arguing. But the truth that came out years later was completely different. Behind the scenes, there was tension, jealousy, and hurt feelings that neither man fully got over. Damon Wilson later revealed in his memoir that Red treated him more like a real son than a co-star, which sounds nice until you understand what that actually meant. Just like Fred Sanford constantly put down and dismissed Lamont on the show, Red often treated Damon the same way when the cameras weren't rolling. Red was a veteran comedian who had been performing for decades, and sometimes he made Damon feel like he was just along for the ride. The painful truth was that Damon Wilson, despite being the second lead on one of the most popular shows on television, often felt invisible. He watched as Red got most of the attention, most of the credit, and most of the money. The producers treated the show like it was the Red Fox show instead of a partnership between two actors. This left Damon feeling bitter and unappreciated, emotions that he carried with him long after the show ended. What makes this even sadder is that both men needed each other more than they ever admitted. Red needed Damon's younger energy and natural acting ability to make the father-son relationship believable. And Damon needed Red's experience and comedic genius to help him grow as a performer. They created something magical together, but they were too proud and too hurt to ever fully acknowledge it to each other while they both had the chance. Let's talk about someone whose story is even more heartbreaking, LaWanda Page, who played the unforgettable Aunt Esther. LaWanda was actually one of Red Fox's oldest friends in real life. They had known each other since the 1940s, long before either of them was famous. She was there during his struggles, his failures, and his eventual success. But what viewers never knew was a tragedy that shaped LaWanda's entire life and gave her the strength to play such a fierce, unforgettable character. LaWanda Page had lived through losses that would have broken most people. She had a son who died as a baby, a tragedy that haunted her forever. She was married 3 times before she turned 40, and each marriage ended the same devastating way, with her husband's death. Can you imagine carrying that kind of pain? Can you imagine wondering if you were somehow cursed to lose everyone you loved? This personal tragedy gave LaWanda a depth and strength that she brought to Aunt Esther. When she would get into those legendary verbal battles with Fred Sanford, calling him a fish-eyed fool and threatening to knock him into the middle of next week, she was channeling decades of pain and survival. Every insult, every comeback, every moment of fierce independence came from a woman who had learned that she could only truly depend on herself. LaWanda Page died in 2002, and it was only after her death that many people learned about the real struggle she had faced. She had spent her later years as a spokesperson for Church's Chicken, but she never forgot where she came from or the pain that had made her strong. Her portrayal of Aunt Esther wasn't just acting. It was a masterclass in turning personal pain into powerful art. But the secrets don't stop there. Let's talk about some of the other cast members whose stories only came to light after they were gone. Gregory Sierra, who played the character Julio Fuentes, Fred's Puerto Rican neighbor, died in January 2021 after a long battle with stomach and liver cancer. What many fans didn't know was that Gregory was actually born in New York City to a Spanish father and a Puerto Rican mother, which gave him a deep understanding of the immigrant experience that he brought to his character. Gregory's portrayal of Julio was groundbreaking because it showed a Latino character who wasn't just a stereotype. Julio had dreams, frustrations, and a complex relationship with his American neighbors. But Gregory had to fight for that complexity. Behind the scenes, he was constantly pushing back against scripts that wanted to make Julio nothing more than a comedic accent and funny misunderstandings. He insisted on bringing dignity and humanity to the role, even when it meant having difficult conversations with writers and producers. Lynn Hamilton, who played Donna Harris, Fred's girlfriend and later wife, passed away in June 2025 at the incredible age of 96. What made Lynn's story so remarkable was that she didn't start acting professionally until she was already middle-aged. She had spent years working regular jobs, raising her family, and living a quiet life before she discovered her talent for acting. Her journey to Sanford & Son was proof that it's never too late to find your calling and make your mark on the world. Lynn brought such warmth and believability to Donna Harris that viewers completely bought into her relationship with the cranky Fred Sanford. But what audiences didn't know was that Lynn had to work twice as hard as many of her co-stars because she was still learning the craft of television acting while she was doing it. She would spend hours studying her lines, working with acting coaches, and observing more experienced performers to make sure she could hold her own on screen. Now here's a secret that shows just how ahead of its time Sanford & Son really was. The show was groundbreaking not just because it featured African-American characters in lead roles, but because it tackled social issues that other shows were afraid to touch. But what viewers didn't realize was how much the cast members themselves influenced these storylines. Red Fox insisted that the show address real problems that African-American families were facing. He pushed for episodes about poverty, discrimination, and the challenges of trying to build a better life in a society that often seemed stacked against you. But the network executives were often nervous about these topics. They worried that white viewers might be uncomfortable or that advertisers might pull their support. This led to constant behind-the-scenes battles that most fans never heard about. Red would argue with producers, writers, and network executives, fighting for the right to tell honest stories about black life in America. Sometimes he won these battles, and sometimes he didn't. But he never stopped fighting, because he knew that Sanford & Son had the power to change how America saw African-American families. Damon Wilson was right there with him in many of these fights. Despite their personal tensions, both men understood the historical importance of what they were doing. They were among the first black actors to star in a successful sitcom, and they felt the weight of that responsibility. Every episode was a chance to break down stereotypes and show that African-American characters could be funny, complex, and deeply human. But this pressure took a toll on everyone involved. The cast members knew that millions of people were watching, judging, and forming opinions about an entire race based on what they saw on Sanford & Son. That's an enormous burden to carry, and it affected how they approached their work and their lives. Here's another secret that will surprise you. The show's creator, Norman Lear, originally wanted to cast different actors in the lead roles. Red Fox wasn't the first choice to play Fred Sanford, and Damon Wilson almost didn't get the part of Lamont. The casting process was long and difficult because everyone involved knew how important these characters would be. Norman Lear was looking for actors who could handle both the comedy and the social commentary that he wanted to weave into the show. He needed performers who understood the responsibility they were taking on, and who could deliver laughs while also making audiences think. Red Fox got the part because he had the life experience and the comedic genius to bring Fred Sanford to life. But it wasn't an easy decision. As for Damon Wilson, he had to audition multiple times and convince the producers that he could hold his own opposite such a powerful performer as Red Fox. The chemistry between the two actors was crucial to the show's success, and it took time to develop. What viewers saw as natural father-son banter was actually the result of hours of rehearsal and fine-tuning. The show's success also came with unexpected challenges that the cast had to navigate. Sanford and Son was so popular that it changed the lives of everyone involved almost overnight. Suddenly, they couldn't go anywhere without being recognized. People would shout out Fred's famous lines like, "You big dummy," or "I'm coming, Elizabeth," wherever Red went. This level of fame was both a blessing and a burden. For some cast members, the attention was overwhelming. They had signed up to be actors, but they found themselves becoming symbols and representatives of their community. Every public appearance, every interview, every personal choice was scrutinized and analyzed. Some handled this pressure better than others, and the stress contributed to some of the personal problems that several cast members faced later in life. Let's talk about something that shows just how much heart this cast had. Even though there were tensions and disagreement behind the scenes, they all understood that they were part of something bigger than themselves. When the show ended in 1977, many of the cast members stayed in touch and supported each other through the ups and downs that followed. LaWanda Page and Red Fox maintained their friendship until his death, despite whatever professional disagreements they might have had. They had been through too much together, both before and during the show, to let anything come between them permanently. Lynn Hamilton continued to work steadily in television and remained close with several of her former co-stars until her death. Even Red and Damon, despite their complicated relationship, recognized what they had accomplished together. In later interviews, both men acknowledged that their chemistry and their conflict had made the show better. The tension between them sometimes translated into more authentic performances on screen. But perhaps the most touching secret of all is how much the cast members value the impact their show had on viewers. They regularly received letters from families who said that Sanford and Son had brought them together for weekly viewing sessions. Parents wrote to thank them for creating a show that they could watch with their children that was both entertaining and meaningful. Teachers wrote to tell them how they used episodes of the show to start conversations about family, community, and social issues. Social workers shared stories about how references to the show helped them connect with clients and families. The cast members kept many of these letters, and they served as reminders of why their work mattered. Gregory Sierra once said in an interview that he was most proud of the fact that Sanford and Son had shown that a Latino character could be a regular part of an African-American family's world without it being a big deal. The show normalized diversity in a way that was revolutionary for its time, and it did so through humor and humanity rather than preaching or lecturing. This brings us to one of the most important secrets of all, the show's lasting impact on television and American culture. Sanford and Son paved the way for countless other shows that featured diverse casts and addressed social issues through comedy. Shows like Good Times, The Jeffersons, What's Happening, and many others existed because Sanford and Son had proven that audiences were hungry for authentic, diverse storytelling. But the cast members didn't fully understand this legacy until years later. At the time, they were just trying to do their jobs well and create something entertaining. It was only as they got older and saw how television had evolved that they began to realize the doors they had opened and the barriers they had broken down. Red Fox never got to see the full extent of his influence on comedy and television. He died too young, before the generation of comedians and actors who had been inspired by his work had fully emerged. But his impact is undeniable. Every comedian who uses personal pain as fuel for humor, every actor who insists on bringing authenticity to their roles, every show that tackles serious issues through laughter owes something to what Red accomplished on Sanford and Son. The tragedy is that many of these secrets and stories only came to light through memoirs, interviews, and tributes that were published or given after the cast members had passed away. While they were alive, they were often too proud, too private, or too professional to share the full truth about their experiences. It's only now that we can fully appreciate the sacrifices they made and the challenges they overcame to bring us one of the greatest sitcoms in television history. As we remember the cast of Sanford and Son, we should honor not just their comedic talents, but their courage, their perseverance, and their commitment to using their platform for good. They created characters that made us laugh, but they also made us think, feel, and see the world a little differently. In an era when television was often criticized for being mindless entertainment, Sanford and Son proved that comedy could have depth, heart, and social significance. The secrets we've shared today paint a picture of a cast that was human, flawed, and struggling with their own demons and challenges. But they also show us performers who understood the power of their work and who tried their best to use that power responsibly. They weren't perfect, but they were pioneers, and their legacy continues to influence television and comedy today. So the next time you watch an old episode of Sanford and Son, remember that you're not just watching a sitcom. You're watching a piece of television history created by a group of talented, complicated, courageous people who changed the world one laugh at a time. Their secrets may have taken decades to come to light, but their impact will be felt for generations to come. If this look behind the scenes of Sanford and Son has opened your eyes to the real stories behind this classic show, make sure to hit that like button and share this video with anyone who loves television history. There are so many more untold stories from the golden age of TV, and we're here to uncover them all. Subscribe to our channel and ring that notification bell so you never miss another deep dive into the secrets of your favorite shows. What other classic TV secrets would you like us to reveal? Let us know in the comment below, and we'll see you in the next video.